If you want to know exactly how to prioritize which investing accounts to put your money into, this video is for you. What's up, guys? I'm Josh and welcome to my channel. So when you get paid, you have several options. You can take the money, spend it all, or you can set aside a portion of it into different types of accounts where you can then invest your money.
Well, Josh, why would we want to do this?
Because if we ever want to retire, whether it be at the traditional retirement age of around 60 years old or early retirement with the FIRE community, we need to not only save a portion of our income, but we need to invest it. In the United States, we have multiple options afforded to us that each have their own benefits. Now, back in the day, companies used to offer pension plans to their employees, which rewarded working at a company your entire career. However, that's not the case anymore. It's up to you to choose the best accounts and to also choose the best investments that will enable your savings to both grow as quickly as possible and to protect it against things like inflation. First, before anything, it's really important that you have an emergency fund. This fund should really be enough to cover at least 3 months of your expenses, and holding it in a high yield savings account is generally the way to go. If we don't have this in place, we're gonna have a much greater likelihood of cashing out our retirement accounts if we get into a jam. We definitely want to avoid that at all costs. So let's talk about the accounts that I would utilize as an employee. And these are in order of importance, starting with the most important, at least in my personal opinion. Firstly, I would take advantage of any company match you get in your 401k. And if you're a federal employee or in the military, instead of a 401k, you'll have access to a TSP or a thrift savings plan, which was actually modeled on the 401k. So they share many similarities. And if you're a state or local government worker, you may have access to what's known as a 403b, which again is very similar to a 401k. So if you have access to any of these accounts, check with your employer and see if they provide an employer match. This is also something that's really helpful to know before you actually accept a job offer with an employer, because it really does add to the total compensation package. Fidelity found that 86% of employers offer their employees a company match. And this employer match is typically between 3 and 5%, but can be less or more than that. It's typical to see an employer match dollar for dollar up to a certain percentage of your total income. For instance, if an employer says they match 100% up to 6% and you make a $50,000 salary, that means for every dollar you invest into your 401k, they'll also invest $1. The 6% portion of the employer match means they'll match your contributions dollar for dollar until you reach 6% of your salary, or in this case, $3,000 in total employer match. $3,000, free money. You may also see employer matches that are less than dollar for dollar, or in some cases, it may even be more than dollar for dollar. In these cases, it may be presented as we match 50% up to 6%. In this case, the employer's telling you that for every dollar you contribute into your 401k, they'll contribute 50 cents up to 6% of your total salary. And if this is at all confusing, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions down in the comment section below. So by taking advantage of a 100% employer match, you'll literally be doubling your money immediately. And I don't care what Dave Ramsey says, even if I had consumer debt, I would still make sure to get that employer match. But I'm just a random guy on the internet, and this is not financial advice, so make sure to analyze your particular situation to see what makes sense for you. And your actual investment options are going to vary depending on which brokerage administers your 401k. I personally like having the majority of my investments in the S&P 500 as it offers solid growth with a level of risk that I'm personally comfortable with as a 35-year-old.
Up next, we have smashing that like button for the YouTube algorithm.
So we got our 401k match. Second, I would take advantage of an HSA. An HSA, or health savings account, allows you to set aside pre-tax money in order to cover qualified medical expenses.
Huh? A health savings account? I thought we were talking about investment accounts.
I know. But HSAs are extremely powerful, and I kick myself every day for not starting mine sooner. And I'm gonna share a powerful HSA hack that I wish I knew 15 years ago. But first, let's cover exactly what an HSA is and why you need one. The thing is, even if you're a young, healthy adult with no medical problems, HSAs are incredibly incredible retirement accounts. I'd argue they're even more powerful than 401ks, and let me tell you why. They're often talked about as being triple tax advantaged. I know this may sound confusing, but let's go through exactly what triple tax advantage means. First, the money you put into your HSA will be pre-tax money. You'll even get to save on your FICA taxes, which is amazing. And by the way, if you want to learn more about federal income tax and FICA taxes, watch this video. So let's say you make $50,000 per year and you put $2,000 into your HSA. Your taxable income will then be reduced by the amount that you've put into your HSA. So in this case, your taxable income will now be $48,000. The second portion of the triple tax advantage is that any investment made within your HSA will grow tax-free. For reference, if you just have a regular taxable brokerage account like Robinhood or Webull, the investments you make may pay out quarterly dividends, for instance. Those dividends, even if they're automatically reinvested with DRIP, will be taxed each and every year. So if you had $2,000 invested in an index fund that pays out dividends within your HSA, those dividends will not be taxed, allowing this investment to compound and grow at a faster rate than if it were in a taxable brokerage. The third part of the triple tax advantage is that the money you've saved and invested within your HSA will not be taxed when you withdraw it to pay for qualified medical expenses. I'll put a link down in the description of what actually qualifies as a qualified medical expense, but it's quite an exhaustive list.
Well, Josh, what happens if I don't have enough qualified medical expenses? Does that mean I just can't get my money out?
Now, this is the thing that's so great about HSAs, and it's the reason I personally believe everyone needs to be taking advantage of one if they're eligible. Once you hit age 65, you can withdraw your HSA funds for whatever you want. You'll simply have to pay ordinary income tax on the withdrawals, which you have to do on your 401k anyway. The only thing is, 401k withdrawals start at 59.5 years old, while these HSA withdrawals start at 65 years old. But that's not even the best part. The best part is there's no time limit to reimburse yourself for qualified medical expenses that you pay for out of pocket. You may be thinking, wait, what? What this means is you can pay your deductible and other medical expenses out of pocket, hang on to the receipts for decades while your HSA investments grow completely tax-free, and then reimburse yourself later in life when you're ready to retire, no matter what age you are. Now, I get it. You have to actually be in a position where you can financially afford to pay out of pocket for your deductible and any other medical expenses. However, I do believe that it's super important to know that this is an actual option available to you, and HSAs have a relatively low contribution limit. You're able to contribute $3,650 per year if you're an individual, or $7,300 per year for family coverage. So in this step, I'd max out this contribution for sure. And while HSAs are generally provided through your employer, you can open one up on your own. You'll simply contribute to it throughout the year and then claim those contributions as deductions on your taxes. But remember those FICA taxes I mentioned earlier? Well, the only way you can actually save on those is if your HSA contributions are taken directly out of your paycheck. I don't make the rules, and you have to be enrolled in a high deductible health plan in order to be eligible to get an HSA. Also, there's generally minimum account balances before you're eligible to invest, but this varies depending on your HSA provider. If you'd like to learn more about HSAs, I talk more in depth about them in these two videos. Another important note regarding HSAs is that employers oftentimes help fund your HSA for you, which is literally free money. So guys, I want to know, do you have an HSA? Let me know down below. Okay, that was a bit long-winded, but the third type of account I would invest in after getting the 401k employer match and maxing your HSA is a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA is an individual retirement account that anyone can open and is not tied to your employer. Now, you can invest up to $6,000 per year into a Roth IRA, and if you're 50 or over, you can invest $7,000 per year. At this stage of the game, I would max this contribution out. And I have my Roth IRA through Vanguard, which is the brokerage that I prefer, but you really have a ton of options here. So I know investment terminology can be a bit confusing. So before we go any further, let's just cover what Roth means. It's actually named after late Delaware Senator William Roth, and it simply means this type of IRA is funded with after-tax dollars. So the money you've already paid income tax on. The major benefit of the Roth IRA is that you'll never pay tax on the investments in this account when you go to withdraw them at retirement age, which is currently 59.5. On the surface, This may not seem too important, but if we start investing in a Roth IRA at a young age, this account will enjoy tax-free growth for decades. Let's say we're 25 years old and we invest the yearly maximum of $6,000 into our Roth IRA, and we never add anything else to it or touch it until we're 60. Assuming an average annual return of 7% over 35 years, we're looking at over $69,000 once we hit retirement age. We more than 10x'd our money and don't have to pay a dime in taxes on that $63,000 in growth. Incredible. But Roth IRAs do have income limits. If you're single, you must have a MAGI of under $129,000 in order to be eligible to contribute the full $6,000. MAGI stands for Modified Adjusted Gross Income. And between $129,000 and $144,000 of income, the amount you can invest will gradually fade out. But even if you make $144,000 or more, you'll still be able to utilize what's called a backdoor Roth IRA. Now, this is still true at the time of recording this video, but I do think Biden's administration is trying to eradicate the backdoor Roth IRA. We'll see what happens. So at the end of the day, I think it's important to have tax diversification in your retirement accounts.
Do what now?
All I mean by this is having some retirement accounts that are funded with pre-tax contributions, such as the 401k and HSA, and other accounts that have post-tax contributions, like the Roth IRA we're talking about now. Now, the reason for this is we don't know what the future brings. We don't know if in 30 years, are we going to be paying more taxes on our investments or less taxes? That's why having a nice mix of pre-tax and post-tax retirement accounts is a pretty decent idea, in my opinion. One thing that's absolutely critical when you're investing in an IRA is that you actually invest the money. I've heard horror stories of people contributing to their IRA, but never actually selecting funds to invest in.
Oh dear.
Oh dear is right. So contribute the money into your Roth IRA and then make sure to actually invest the money. These types of accounts are really up to you to direct, unless of course you're paying a financial professional to oversee them. Another thing to make sure of is to not invest more than you're allowed to each year. If you do invest more than the limit, you'll be charged a 6% penalty on the excess each and every year until you remove it from the account.
Defund the IRS!
Another really cool feature that I don't necessarily endorse utilizing is being able to withdraw the contributions from your Roth IRA at any time, penalty-free, regardless of your age. Think about it. This is money you've already paid taxes on, so if you want to pull it out, the IRS says, go to town. Is it a good idea to do this? I'd argue no. Not unless, of course, you're ready to actually retire and you haven't hit the traditional retirement age. So you can withdraw the contributions, but you must leave the earnings within the account until retirement age, or you'll be hit with a 10% penalty on the money. So now that you've gotten your employer 401k match, you fully funded your HSA, and you fully funded your Roth IRA, the next thing I would do is go back and fully fund your 401k, or your 403b or TSP if that's what you have. The annual 401k contribution limit for 2022 is $20,500. So quite a bit more than the HSA and IRA limits. And if you're 50 or older, you're allowed to invest an additional $6,500 in catch-up contributions, bringing your annual contribution limit to $27,000. These limits are also the same for TSPs and 403bs. If you have the wiggle room in your budget, max this baby out. It'll not only lower your taxable income, but it'll have you sitting pretty for retirement if you do this year over year. Another super important thing to note is that employer contributions do not count toward the annual contribution limit. So you personally can contribute $20,500 per year, and then whatever your employer adds to the pot is just gravy. Following these 4 steps will really put you in a good position for retirement, so long as you continue investing each year. If you still have money left over after these accounts are fully funded, I'd really consider either saving up for some investment real estate or investing in a taxable brokerage account. This is especially true if you're looking to join the FIRE community and have that financial freedom in your life to really pursue your passions and spend time with loved ones. Having taxable investment accounts will enable you much more freedom, as you'll be able to pull from these accounts whenever you need access to the money. And if you want to know whether your income falls into the upper, middle, or lower class, check out this video. And do me a huge favor, click that like button and make sure to subscribe for more personal finance videos. Thanks for watching. Peace.